A child in education from UNCG, and she'll share with us what her team learned as they explored the question, why aren't all children in high quality, affordable child care? Welcome, Ishna.
I was told that this is gonna, yes, we're good. Just wanted to make sure. The middle class has a hard time because they make enough to pay bills, but not enough to afford childcare, and too much for programs like Head Start or NC Pre-K. We have some parents who believe that their child will be ready for school and don't need it. But if childcare was free for all children, what a difference would that make? That's one of the stories that my group collected, and you'll hear some more of those. But as Mary and Joan said earlier, thinking back to February and saying, what is your story? Stories tell so much. And that's what our group attempted to do. A few of the organizations that worked on our team are shown here. But at the end of the day, everybody on our team has the same goal in our work. And it's to better the conditions and the opportunities for childcare facilities, early childhood teachers, family childcare home providers, and ultimately, children. So when in February we looked at the framework, there was a phrase that stood out to us, and it was children in high quality, affordable, early learning settings. Now those of us that work in it, we know that's a goal for the community, but we also know that we're not there. And as a good friend of mine likes to say, we turned that curious situation into a question. So our group set out to ask, why don't all children in Guilford County have access to high quality, affordable, early learning settings? And just that phrase alone, in the root cause analysis process in February, we quickly realized that those 3 words and 3 concepts cannot be separated. Each piece directly affects and relates to the other pieces. And we all quickly learned too that we each had a story to tell. The stories were complicated and gritty and told about some things that we sometimes weren't experiencing ourselves. So we said we need some more stories. Different research calls for different data collection methods. And by collecting the stories, we needed them to make better connections among the affordability, accessibility, and quality pieces in early childhood. Now our key findings, these were from analyzing the data that came in from the cards, connections, things that we kept seeing come up over and over. These are in your booklet. I'm not going to read them, but rather I want to share some more quotes that will illustrate them. I teach now, but when I have children, it won't be an option. At least half of my pay would go to childcare. So staying as a teacher is just not an option. And there are very few high-quality options for the middle class for childcare. Infant care costs more than my housing costs. Teacher morale is low, even apathetic. Many childcare programs are underfunded and just have too few resources. These are some deep statements, and I began to feel like every card that came in needed its own root cause analysis. There was more and more to the picture for each one we saw. So we had to look at what do those pieces really mean? Well, for quality in North Carolina, we have a star-rated licensing system. What this essentially means is that childcare facilities or family childcare homes can come in on a 1 to 5 star license. 1 being they've chosen to meet minimal licensing requirements, and if they want to meet some higher achievement options, they can apply for a 2 to 5 star license. Another component of that license are education points. And what that does is take into consideration the education levels of the teachers. So theoretically, higher education levels equate to higher quality. And knowing that alone, I think we'd all say that we want 5-star care for every child in Guilford County. Well, the responses that began to come in around cost and affordability made us dig even further. The market rate for 5-star infant care in our county is $902 a month. This is not the cap, but a base price. And you can see the difference in the market rate for a 1-star infant care facility. And these are based on child care center rates. Family child care home rates are set just a little differently. And I think to explain this, families who earn well can afford many options. At the other end of the spectrum, families with very few resources can enroll in higher quality programs like Head Start or NC Pre-K, although there are waiting lists. For those in the middle, there's choices like unregulated or unlicensed care, family members, 1 to 3-star facilities. How many children in our county are currently enrolled in mediocre to less than minimal quality, and why do we allow this? And it directly relates to accessibility. My son was on the waiting list for over a year for early Head Start, and then he was too old to get in. So we would also think, though, if we relate the higher education levels of teachers to higher quality, linking some higher costs, the teachers at the higher quality facilities would be paid well. But we saw from more and more respondents with teachers, the perspectives of their wages and their work environment are low and poor. Child Care Services Association does a workforce study, and in North Carolina, the average lead teacher wage in early childhood is $10.97 an hour, which also puts them in the boat of working at a high-quality facility but not being able to send their child to a high-quality facility too. And I have to clarify at the bottom, we wondered, with the cost, high-quality facilities just need to move some money around in their budget. That's expensive. Well, in my work, working with early childhood facilities, we approached a 5-star nonprofit organization and said, what would it take just to get your staff to $10.10 an hour across the board? And she played and pushed and pulled, and no matter what she could do, the only option was to raise tuition. And being a 5-star facility, we already know what they're asking parents to pay. So thinking about some of the comments I mentioned around quality, we have to look deeper into that. And historically, there's a basis of how we are where we are now. And in 1999, when this whole star-rated licensing system began, we said teachers need to know about these pieces of safety for kids. We need trainings. They need to know about SIDS and tummy time and the appropriate things to do with infants and toddlers. So we have professional development opportunities. And over the time, they've become higher quality. They go deeper. They talk about curriculum, different theories, but we discovered they're missing some education components. So over time, those requirements grew too. They need to know about the sequence of development, appropriate behaviors for children at certain ages, and someone realized that at $10.97 an hour, they couldn't afford it. So we do have programs like Teach, which is how I just finished my master's, thank you, that does provide scholarships at little or no cost for people to continue their education. But the third piece of this, and it's true to any business model, not just childcare, is the compensation and benefits. Teacher says, I have more education and debt than most people I know, yet I make far less. Every opportunity to learn more and be better I take, but it's doing nothing to improve my pay. Now, there are programs that exist, incentives, salary supplements, We don't happen to have one in our county at the moment, and there's a teacher who reported that she lives in another county that does offer a salary supplement and drives to Guilford County to stay at the center she's been at for over 15 years because she knows the importance of being a strong role model and has the commitment of being in that facility and help building it from the ground up. Now, in the meantime, teachers are reporting they want to leave. They're stressed, they're overworked, they're poorly compensated. But when we go back to those key findings our group found around turnover, and we kept hearing comparisons to programs like pre-K, Head Start, kindergarten teachers, this might shed some light on why. The one thing that those programs have in common is more publicly funded support. When we don't have that down at the bottom, and if you look on the right, these are averages from 2012, 2013. The teacher down on the right in the early childhood sector, North Carolina data showing the $10.97 an hour, can have a 4-year degree. They can have a birth or kindergarten teaching license, and they won't make a whole lot more when they're done, or have insurance. We had a teacher report that she has teeth pulled instead of getting root canals because it doesn't cost as much. But if you move up that ladder to where there are a few more benefits and insurance, you can see a doctor at the end of the day when you're sick. Having taught in the regular classroom for 9.5 years and now in childcare, I can say both are equally important in the development of children, especially at an early age. Public school teachers get better pay and more recognition than those of us in childcare. We're required to have education and training just the same, if not more. We're responsible for the safety, well-being, and learning of the children in our care. And my schedule's 8:30 to 6, so I take care of the children more than their parents do. And when I get home at 6:30, I still have my own family to take care of. They suffer because of the amount of time that I'm at work. And when I get my paycheck, there's not enough to show for the time and effort that I put into my children and my classroom. But we are worthy. Based on the responses that we have seen, and I would encourage all of you to take a look. We've got them posted during the next break. Our immediate recommendations would be to implement a salary supplement in our county so that we can keep the best teachers we already have and attract more into the field. And in order to address the problems that were associated with cost, we also recommend shifting the requirements for programs such as child care vouchers and subsidy just to allow more families to access child care. Obviously, if we help with the affordability, we would also be addressing accessibility. But with this piece, I have to point out, these must coexist, and the recommendations have to happen simultaneously, and here's why. If we were to look just at affordability and say, let's make it free for all children, and not address the quality, we will flood our system with teachers who are unprepared, more overworked than they already are now, and not able to keep up with the demands of the children and families who are trying to have their children ready for kindergarten. If we were to just address quality and support teachers, there's still families out there that can't afford to pay, which are keeping them from accessing the system. And the recommendations that we're making directly align with all of the work that's happening from you in the community through Ready Ready so far. Photo Voice recommended having highly educated teachers that are compensated, culturally competent. Ready children need ready and supported educators. Children should be developmentally on track. All of these statements directly relate to the early childhood system in relationship to child care and early childhood education. And not only do these actions support working families, but high-quality learning environments benefit all children. I was a single mother working 2 jobs and still unavailable to find a center I could afford. I had no choice but to have my children cared for by a family member. I know they were loved, and I know they were taken care of, but they didn't receive the social, emotional, or education benefits that could have been provided by an educated professional. Hence, our transition to pre-K and elementary was difficult, and neither of my children were very prepared. For the families that can provide in-house supports for their children to be at home, there is value in that choice. But what we are talking about as a community are not the ones that have the choice, but the families that are forced into making one. And we also know through evidence-based research that happy teachers equal happy children. We've got research using valid and reliable tools, your rating scales, program administration scale, that directly relate higher scores on these tools to classrooms with teachers with more education and better compensation. If we're investing as a community, and we really want our youngest members to be ready for school and ready for life, I hope sharing this today is opening the door to conversations on how we get there as a community. And as one teacher said, they are our future leaders, the doctors and lawyers that will be taking care of us. And they all deserve high-quality settings just as much as the teachers who support their development deserve to be able to pay their power bills and put food on a table. And this is a moment where, although it's a lot of information, it's very exciting because I feel that we are in a place as a community where we can and we should support this piece that ultimately plays a direct role in answering why we can have children ready for kindergarten. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I'm not looking at my comments. Did you hear what she said? For some of you that are here like me, you can say 2 things. Either you were blessed, depends on who you are and what your background is, or you can say you were lucky. There's a lot of you in this room that are blessed or lucky. You came from the background that she talked about. I did. And now I produce children of my own who don't know anything about this, who need to be in this room. Mine happen to be out of the city. But they need to be in this room. They need to know about this. I look at Robin and the work he does, and Robin and I have a lot in common. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Robin and Britt, early childhood. We're the same age. We both have grandchildren. And Robin, you know, I had my 3-year-old spend the night the other night because he was sick and he couldn't go to daycare. They live in Cary. And his mom is a CPA. His dad is a national sales director and he had to go to another city. Their daughter was okay. But Miller was sick. So he called me and said, Dad, can I bring and drop Miller off with you? And then I'm going to go on down to Charlotte, catch a plane, do what I have to do. Can you take care of Miller? My wife and I talked. We both had meetings the next day, and we worked it out so it was like a shift. One would be there, one would be gone. But you know what? Because of you, because of what's going on in here, I'm a better grandfather than I was a father. And it's all because of knowledge, Leslie. It's all because of what we learned. And you know, one of the things that One of the jobs I had in the past, I worked at North Carolina Central University, Public Administration Program. And I remember that I had to go to all these different parties in the Research Triangle Park, because that was North Carolina Central, and the state, not that far. There's Chapel Hill. There's Duke. And they used to have these parties where faculty would come together. And I used to be in those rooms and I'd get introduced. Oh yes, my name is Dr. So-and-so. I'm an astrophysicist. I work out at the Research Triangle Park, and I also teach at Duke, and Carolina, and State. That's how they got him there. That he could teach at the 3 universities. But he's so proud, I really don't need the money. Oh yeah, sure. Could you imagine if we could really turn it upside down? That we paid the most for those who take care of our children when they're younger. And if they did it right, then it wouldn't be that tough. So the next higher paid would be elementary school. We'd have to pay them because they got them. And then next is high school. Couldn't be that tough because they did such a good job in elementary school. And then next, it would be university. Because it couldn't be that tough because they did such a good job in high school. And then last, it would be our graduate schools. Because it wouldn't be that tough because they did such a good job at the university. So now I'm going to the same parties, meeting the same faculty. Oh yes, my name is Dr. Mitchell. I'm a preschool astrophysicist. Because the money is there. No matter what goes on, when I look at all of you, no matter how blessed you are, how lucky you were that you were born into